is from the Caribbean, from Africa, from South America, and just with how the times have changed from the 60s to 70s, the economies of the 90s, where we are in this major recession with children's and the households. What have you had to do to adjust and to teach and to still get your message out of success and achievement?
Well, I think one of the things that athletics offers to all folks is standards. If you're going to block someone, if you're going to throw a pass, if you're going to compete as a team, you have to follow the scheme of that particular sport. So immediately, regardless of what your outside influences are, when you come into a team or even an individual sport, you have to adhere to the rules and regulations of that sport. It gives you a sense of direction. It gives you a sense of discipline, a feeling of cooperation with the man next to you regardless of his ethnicity, that you have to work together to be a combo blocking grouping. And I think that particular sport, that the sport itself and sports in general, and one of the reasons I would encourage, I hope, President Obama to make sure that he's contributing a great deal of funds to organizations like the McGuire Foundation, because, let me just go aside here, I'm fortunate every year that I'm invited to the McGuire Foundation. They have usually a guest speaker in the spring every year. You get a chance to listen to him and question him. You get a chance to question of Bobby Knight, as a high school coach. And I think that also they recognize, just as I was recognized, they make a beautiful presentation to the individual coach at their annual Coaches Recognition Award dinner. So that they're one of the few organizations around that can do that, or want to do it, or have the leadership to do it. And I think that we benefit, as do the other schools. And no other organization that I know awards so many in a given year, men and women. They never forgot the women as far as things. A lot of times people forget that. They didn't forget the women. And the people that they pick out are all sports. It isn't just a popular sport like football or basketball. They make awards to all of the different sports, to the coaches in those sports. Going back to our other situation, I think that the activities today are under attack, are under the area of change. But you can look upon change as in so many different ways. One of the first things you have to look at with our young people today is that they are offered the glamour of sports. We didn't have quite the TV glamour approach today of the NFL and the colleges and so forth. So they can see a top team play every week and the glamour that comes to those particular athletes. They can also see or hear about some of the negatives, because we have a drug culture we're also dealing with that our young people have to cope with. It's around them and they have to do their best not to get involved. Sports helps them in that particular direction. Not 100% successful in all of it, but without it, you'd be in much worse condition in terms of the offerings of the drug culture to our young people that are involved in the sporting world. It gives them, again, the discipline. The coaches are all talking about it. They have rules in just about every school to stay away from drugs, to watch themselves in that particular category. And they also have the encouragement of good health standards. You're talking about standards that are taking care of themselves, proper nutrition, which we don't do as good a job in. We do a much better job, I think, with nutrition today, and I'm hoping that under President Obama's leadership that he will become involved with our sporting world, our scholastic sporting world, because the need is tremendous, and then he will become involved with the organizations like the McGuire Foundation and the various interscholastic and athletic programs throughout the country, both public and private. He has a great opportunity here, and I think that under his leadership we have a chance of his branching out and giving us the support we need. And I say that because I see the lack of it. I see the lack that there are certain schools that may have to give up different sports because they don't have the wherewithal to pay for it, the equipment and so forth. So they need help there. And our private organizations, the McGuires and others, have to give us the leadership to put that particular sport in.
Yeah. Coach, you know how important a high school coach is and his ability to connect with kids. Can you tell us why that role is so important? I mean, oftentimes the teacher in the classroom has a limited experience with a kid because it's just on the education, but you in your role as a coach have an emotional connection and a tremendous impact on that individual, and how important that is and why you have that advantage in terms of being able to teach the student athlete.
Well, I think the first thing is the classroom teacher is subject oriented. He or she is trying to get across the learning of a language, the physics, or whatever it might be. The coach, on the other hand, he's talking about the personality and the character fitting into the sport, into a frame of skills. So that in order to handle the skills, you've got to get inside, you have to deal with the character, you have to deal with the emotion. And not that there's not emotion in the classroom, but there's a lot more emotion in the sports field. So you can impact character, you can impact the emotion and the values that we're trying to push in society to better the person for their career, for their life. So I think the orientation is different in terms of the classroom and in terms of the field. Both certainly are involved in the intelligence of the youngster, trying to increase their perceptions, trying to increase their stress in the academics, because that may bring them on to preparing themselves for college. So most high school coaches, I would say, are concerned about trying to upgrade the academics of a youngster so they get on to a professional career or whatever intellectual area they're going to for a profession for life. The classroom teacher has same goals, but the emphasis is different. One is the subject orientation, the other one is the character and values. And we have it every day. And in many cases, you have it throughout the year. Or if you're advocating, as I and other people are, 2 or 3 sports, they have it through that. Or if it's one sport through a year, they're having it that way. So you're with the child in a longer hours, Saturdays. So there's just much more time. And so you're involved with the orientation family. You also are trying to get the family to support the child in better ways. If there isn't a family, and in many cases, a lot of the children do not have the family support. The mother and father may have other children, or they may be single, as in many of the homes today where there's separation. You need the other partner in the family to do it. And if they don't have that partner, the coach and the school can be 2 great supporters of that family and give that child direction.
Coach Bobby Knight said something really important. He said, how important is my job as a coach? Everybody I coach, I look at as potentially being the next president of the United States.
Well,
I mean, your advice to high school coaches out there when they're working with young men in terms of how important their job is and what impact that they can have, maybe you can reflect on that for a second.
Absolutely. I'd say just about almost every coach I know is trying to get the boy or the young lady to be better at their sport, to improve them in their sport. In order to do that, they've got to get their mind focused on them and the directions they're giving them of learning to throw a ball or hit a ball, whatever the case might be. So there's an immediate area of communication that they have to be successful in. The coach can't ignore it. He must get their mind with it. He must get their concern. He must deal with values with that young person. They can't run around all night. They cannot be ineligible. So there are requirements for his teaching or her teaching that require them to start to discipline their life to some degree to deal with success in sports. If not, they just missed the boat, and especially as a team player, they want to fit in as a team player if they're playing a team sport.